Hello and welcome to It's Your Health. You've probably noticed my fantastic It's Your Health is brought to you by talking about One World Whey and the commercials. And, you know, I only have products that I believe in on the show. And I absolutely love One World Whey. And I'm psyched and very excited to have back on the show Stephen Heuer. Hi, Stephen.
Hi, Lisa. Thanks for having me on.
Well, it's so great to have you back. And Stephen, people are really excited about the spots and about the whey. As a matter of fact, I've got questions for you from some listeners, so I'd love to jump right in.
Sure, please ask them, sure.
All right, so Sue in Wisconsin asks, I like to make smoothies with fruits and veggies, and I like to put the protein powder right in the blender. I understand that you shouldn't put the One World Whey into the blender. Why is that?
The proteins, and particularly what's called the amino acid called cysteine. It's a particularly fragile sulfur amino acid. It's two sulfur amino acids called cysteine. That's cysteine. That particular sulfur amino acid is what you're trying to get from taking the whey protein, and the way that it comes to us in the whey protein is two of those molecules locked together in another name called cysteine. It's a disulfide version, or two molecules together. It's called cysteine, cysteine. It's very fragile, so it's subject to mechanical stress. So just simply the normal processes that milk is put through for homogenization, pasteurization, and filtration subjects it to so much stress that you damage it and render it as a single, make it into a single amino acid, which your body's going to then do things to. If you render it as a single amino acid, then the digestive tract tends to absorb it all, and you don't get it into the bloodstream, and you don't get it into the cells. If you leave it in the form of this disulfide, then it absorbs through the intestines into the bloodstream and gets into the cells, and inside the cells it breaks down into the two cysteine molecules, and then that particular amino acid combines with two other amino acids to make what's called glutathione. So when you do a blender method of blending up the protein drink, you mechanically ram the milk proteins with the blender blades, and you lose a percentage of the benefits you could get. So I don't say don't use the blender at all. I just tell people blend it up with all your ingredients first. Like I'll take sometimes 2-3 raw eggs. I'll blend it up with a pear, half a banana, maybe a handful or two of blueberries with some water. I'll blend that up. Then I'll add the 1 to 2 scoops of One World Whey. I'll blend it for a second just to mix it, and then I do it that way.
Oh, that makes so much sense. That's what my husband's been doing. So originally he was blending it all, but I told him not to. What I usually do is I love berries. So I'll take frozen strawberries, blueberries, and raspberries, and unsweetened, so delicious coconut milk, vanilla. I love it. And then I'll blend that first, and then I'll get a shaker cup, and then I'll put the One World Whey in there. But it's nice to know I can blend it softly in the blender. So that's good. That's good to know.
Yeah.
Good stuff. All right, let's move on. Barbara from Texas. When I make smoothies, I usually make enough for a couple of days. Will the One World Whey in the smoothie be okay in an airtight container overnight in the fridge?
Yeah, there's no degradation from it sitting in its liquefied smoothie shake form in the refrigerator for days, in fact. It's fine.
Oh, that's great. All right, Laura from Michigan. How many calories are in each scoop of the One World Whey?
98.33, I think, is the exact number of calories, but I also want to qualify that answer by just educating this Laura, the question asker. I want to qualify that by saying, it's really important to be aware that the model of using calories to monitor your weight is a false model for the most part. In other words, the idea that if you eat this amount of calories in a day but only expend this amount of calories in a day is going to cause you to gain body fat is an incorrect conclusion to just simply go to that one foregone conclusion. It's different than that. What it is when your bloodstream exceeds its sugar levels beyond what your cells can take up. The body's primary energy needs are, primary fuel needs is going to be protein, fatty acids, and then your carbohydrates. But the amount of carbohydrates that you need is very, very small to keep your brain and muscle systems fueled unless you're doing a lot of aerobic activity, a lot of aerobic exercise. Then you need larger amounts of both complex and or simple carbohydrates from fruits. So, but if you exceed the level of sugar needs that your cells have, then your brain and your body has signaled that there's an unusable amount in circulation, and it turns it into triglycerides and body fat. So it's really the excess carbs in the diet, and there's a small amount of fat accumulation from long-chain fatty acids when you eat high amounts of them, as opposed to the short-chain fatty acids. But for the most part, I want to make people, and particularly women, aware to not live in fear and calorie restriction, because if you do calorie restriction, you're actually harming yourself. You're slowing down your metabolism, you're slowing down your overall combustion of energy, and you'll have a tendency to have more weight gain in the future because of the slower metabolism.
Yeah, it's so true. I don't know if you're familiar with Jonathan Baylor, but he wrote a great book, Stephen, called The Calorie Myth, and he talks exactly about what you're talking about, and it makes so much sense. And I told him all about the One World Way, and he was very excited. So it's
and
really
the other thing is
good information.
Just as an example, there's so many cultures, like the Inuit people that live in Alaska in their primitive state, decades ago. They'd eat up to 9,000 calories a day in fat, and they would never become obese or fat. So that's just an example.
Yeah, no, I like that. I do love my healthy fat. All right, Steve from Texas. I'm trying to build more muscle. How many scoops of One World Way can I use each day?
So there's a variability here. I always tell people that it depends upon what their body is telling them, so that they need to listen to their own appetites, and that varies from, say, a sick person with chronic health problems to a robustly healthy person. They could have a vast variation in how much they need. In general, though, you need at least 3 scoops a day of the One World Way to activate a mechanism in your body called mammalian target of rapamycin. So this is a particular mechanism that if you get 8 grams of the amino acid leucine into your diet in a day, then you activate this mechanism that helps your body to create new muscle tissue. So you need at least probably 3.5 scoops to 4 scoops of One World Way to achieve that minimum 8 grams of leucine in your daily diet. And also don't forget that if you're trying to build muscle, that you need an optimal level of testosterone in your body, which means you need an optimal level of cholesterol. You need at least 222 milligrams per 100 milliliters of blood of actual total cholesterol to be in a blood chemistry state whereby your body's capable of producing optimal levels of the steroid hormones, one of which is testosterone. And that's a key factor to being able to fully benefit from the protein in your diet, is to have enough fat, butter, eggs, animal fats in your diet in a day to help your body produce those steroid hormones.
All right. Now, Nancy from Wisconsin, I am lactose intolerant. Can I use One World Way?
Yes, because 98% of the lactose naturally in whey has been enzymatically predigested, so there's only about 2% left, and thus far every person who's lactose intolerant that's taken One World Whey has told us that they have no intolerance, no problem whatsoever with taking the whey protein.
Oh, that's fantastic. I actually have a question. My daughter tends to get colds very often. Talk about how whey, especially One World Whey, being from grass-fed cows, is beneficial for the immune system.
It's really important because one of the substances that I spoke about earlier, the glutathione, is necessary to feed the white blood cells a necessary chemical that they need to both multiply in numbers and to have the motility. The white blood cells, some of the white blood cells of the body are like amoeba in that they move through the body self-propelled, looking for non-self items, whether that's a cancer cell, a virally infected cell, or a bacteria of some sort, or a toxin. Those amoebic-like movements are necessary for the white blood cells to find out and remove from the body that which is not going to create health. So the glutathione is the key molecule that fuels the white blood cells' production and their mobility or motility. So it's essential for the immunity to have optimal levels of glutathione. So glutathione is the substance that the body has to produce high amounts of if it's going to maintain its health. And the key missing amino acid for that to happen is the cysteine, the cysteine. In other words, all the foods in nature that you look at, if you look at the foods in the vegetable kingdom, you've got some grains like quinoa and stuff, and then you've got your sulfur vegetables like Brussels sprouts and broccoli and the onions and the garlic that have some of the sulfur amino acids in them, but they don't have enough, and in order for your body to get them, you would have to eat them raw, because if you cook them, you damage them, and then you end up needing at least 40 pounds or so of the vegetables and the grains in a day to get a level equal to what you get in just like a small amount of the whey protein that we're talking about here. Or if you're trying to get the sulfur amino acids from meats, you'd be needing to eat 4 to 5 pounds of raw meats a day. That has to be raw because, again, if you cook the meats, you destroy these amino acids. So what you're talking about is you're getting something that's very concentrated. This sulfur amino acid in the whey is the highest source of it known in nature. So with one scoop twice a day, you can be feeding your body this cysteine ability and the body's ability to keep your glutathione levels in their optimum range, and then the protection you get from that is phenomenal.
Oh, that's great. Let's talk about the endorsement you got from Natural News.
Yeah.
Tell us all about
Natural
that.
News. Yeah, Natural News. Mike Adams has developed, he's got this thing called the Natural News Forensic Labs, where he's going to ensure that people are getting or know about the healthiest products on the market by analyses that he will be performing. So he did an analysis of several of the vegetable protein powders on the market, I guess like the rice protein and the pea protein and things like this, and he did an analysis of the whey protein, our whey protein, One World Whey, and he found the analysis was for the heavy metal content, so the mercury, the lead, the arsenic, the cadmium. These metals the body has no biological need for, well, maybe tiny amounts, but for the most part they're toxic. And so he found that compared to the vegetable protein powders, One World Whey had the absolute lowest levels of heavy metals. It was the cleanest of all the protein powders he analyzed, and he said that it was actually shocking to find that, because most people think that heavy metals and toxins accumulate when you go up the food chain. They become higher in the animal substances rather than lower. So it was really a nice, aha for a lot of people. I already knew this myself in my profession, because I've seen too many clinical results of people having life-transforming changes in their health on this whey protein that they've never, ever seen on a hemp protein, a pea protein, a rice protein powder. You just can't even come close. And that's not just because there's an absence of heavy metals in the whey protein. It's because the actual proteins are different. According to Hal Huggins, there's a dimensionally different structure to animal proteins compared to vegetable proteins, and there's also the bioavailability aspect. When you derive proteins from a vegetable source, like a hemp protein or a pea protein or whatever, these are cellulose-bound proteins, cellulose-bound amino acids, which means the fiber wraps up and locks up these amino acids. The human digestive tract is not a vegetarian digestive tract. If it was, it would produce the enzyme called cellulase, which would break down this cellulose so that you could get at the amino acids. This is the digestive tract of a cow or a horse or a goat or a sheep. These animals have 2 to 4 stomachs, and they have a fermentation mechanism with bacteria present that enables them to produce high amounts of cellulase to break down the cellulose, get at the nutrients, feed the bacteria, and then the bacteria in their digestive tracts produce proteins that then feed their bodies, so they develop these strong muscular bodies. We do not have that kind of a digestive tract, so we do not derive much benefit. And when you look at the work of Hal Huggins, who's a famous dentist that's basically helped people recover their health for the last 40 years with his dental and nutritionally oriented practice, he's found that you cannot shift your blood chemistry to have enough globulin, albumin, and a correct bilirubin, urea, nitrogen level, which are proteins in the blood. You can't get your protein levels in your blood where they need to be to heal or detoxify your body of mercury or heavy metals unless you're relying on animal proteins. So the fact that One World Whey is a protein that has not been heat altered, and the heating, of course, bends and twists proteins and amino acids into shapes your body can't use, the fact that that has not been done, your body has 100% efficient utilization of these proteins and amino acids in One World Whey, unlike anything on the market. And so we get people putting this in their raw milk, and their raw milk becomes a health food beyond what they ever got from raw milk alone.
That is incredible. I want to direct people to www.naturalnews.com. In the search box, if you just put in One World Whey, you'll get the article, One World Whey Protein Tests 100 times cleaner than popular vegan proteins for heavy metals, lead, arsenic, cadmium, and mercury results here. Well, how do we get your fabulous One World Whey, Stephen?
Well, you can either go to oneworldwhey.com, which is just the word one and then world and then WHEY.com, or you can call our number, which is 888-988-3325. That's 888-988-3325.
Stephen, thank you so much. This is such great. And I just want to add in the last thing, I still can't get over how amazing it tastes. And my 9-year-old daughter drinks it every day. She loves it. We have the chocolate and the vanilla. It's just amazing.
Yeah, it's kind of like liquefied ice cream. It's
It really
quite,
is.
quite delicious.
It's a sweet way to start the day. Stephen, thank you so much.
Thank you too, Lisa.